back, everybody. We're here another week, another episode, another podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. We got, as usual, Stoph and Paul today. So thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. We got some good topics today.
Are you talking in the third person? Paul says this.
Stoph and Paul. Paul is on the other end, which is this end.
Is currently speaking and providing audio.
Yeah, so when Paul has the plan of hitting the gym.
Oh, God, that would be so cringy if the whole podcast was in third person.
Yeah, what was like in second person? Like
second person is saying you do that.
I know, exactly. Like what it was like. Yeah, so like when
it would just be a motivational podcast.
Yeah, it would just
to the gym, brother.
Yeah, basically. Or like I would be saying it like as if you're the one doing what I'm doing.
Oh, gee.
You know, like it'd be like, yeah, when you get ready for a show, or when you do this with your new update, it's like it's not my update, it's your update. Yeah, it's your update.
Yeah, second person only really works in literature, not in podcasts.
Yeah, it does. And I've only read a couple books in second person, and it's kind of weird to me.
The most popular ones are choose your own adventure stories. It's like flip to this page if you want to do this.
Yeah, I got into the 5th season. I only got about halfway through before I DNF'd it. I gotta go back to it, but the 5th season by what's the name? I forget the name of the author, but the 5th season is like a sci-fi / fantasy book all at the same time, and it's written in second person, so it was very, very weird to be reading you all the time, you know? So that was interesting.
I moved my library yesterday, so I have to just go through all my books again.
Yeah, I just keep most of mine digital. I have a couple shelves right here in the corner of my room and then a couple books tucked away, but I don't really read too much physical books, really just digital. Yeah. It's easier.
Well, especially as the English teacher, I'm kind of required to have a ton.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so we'll just dive into it. How do you want to start it? Where do you want to start off at?
Well, I'll just kind of give a little update on my end.
Go ahead.
And basically, I've had a coach for the past 4 or 5 months, and me and him have decided to part ways recently. Completely mutual. It's nothing like negative. It's not like we had a fist fight or anything like that. But I just wasn't eating to the goals set forth. I could only maintain, like, I've been sitting 200 flat, give or take 5 pounds for the existence of my adult life, including the times that I was, with a coach and whatnot. So we kind of just took a look at it and said there's probably no real coachable option here. So while obviously I, like the sport and still do the podcast here with Paul, that kind of road isn't really in the works because I just have too much other stuff that I prioritize above this. And I don't have the ability to put, the bodybuilding lifestyle on top of any of those other things. So with all that kind of built together, the coach and I kind of parted ways. We still go to the same gym, so it's not like I'm not going to see the dude. And I can still reach out for different bits of advice if I want to, but the coaching client days are over.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's like when we were talking about it when it was going on, I mean, there's like, I wasn't going to try to convince you to keep going. I mean, it's got to be something that you want. And if you're not, like, if there's other priorities, then that is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like when I look at it in my, like during my day and the things that I do during the day, I just have other things that rise above it. Like, my job is obviously very, very intensive and like needs a lot of my time. But on top of that, like with my, streaming, doing this photography thing as well, personal life things, like actually trying to have that little bit of social life that I want. All of that just kind of stacks on top of it. And there's just not enough time to, because it's a lifestyle. That's what we try and preach here on the podcast. Like if you try and get into it, it is a full-on lifestyle and you need to be ready to commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
and that's just not something that I have in the works anymore. That, of course, does not mean I don't like it anymore. It's not like when I stopped working with my coach, I'm like, Arnold actually wasn't that big.
Yeah.
Like, I still enjoy the sport and still, have conversations like with Paul all the time. Christoph has conversations with Paul, and we're switching back to the third person.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, that's kind of a quick little update on my end. And of course, I'm still an animal in the gym, so it's not like I'm losing that either, because the gym's always my safe place.
Mm-hmm.
And the takeaway that for me, like, because you live and you learn through different experiences, and obviously I know a lot more about dieting and packing on my macros and all of that stuff. But the big thing is that not working out 7 days a week is kind of the big takeaway from this whole experience, because I saw definition and growth in these past 4 months, and we were only working maybe 3-4 times a week. So it's a good change. Rest days are important,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so that's just a quick little rundown.
Yeah. I mean, as sad as it makes me to see that happening, I mean, I mean, I know how hard it is. I know how hard it can be. And I know, what it's like to, lose out on other portions of life, to make space for bodybuilding. I've always preached that it's, inherently selfish. And it's weighed heavily on, my wife's and I relationship. We did have an episode about that. So, you guys can go watch that if you're interested on how to balance a relationship with bodybuilding. But in other aspects too, I mean, it takes away a lot of time. I mean, right now we'll get more into it, but I'm doing more cardio now. And I'm really making sure I get my ab movements dialed in. So I'm spending like almost, I mean, give or take anywhere from like an hour and a half to like 2 hours at the gym every day, which really sucks time out of your day. You don't realize how much time you end up spending and then if you include my drive to the gym, I end up spending another half hour driving there and back. So, well, total, so 15 minutes roughly there, 15 minutes back. So it really takes up a lot of time. Takes up a lot of time away from, my wife, away from my dogs, away from, hanging out with my friends on video games or away from family, whatever it is. So, and then we also have to schedule, like yesterday, we were at, my in-laws, my wife's parents' place. And, granted, we ended up leaving before I had to go to the gym, but I had to plan my food and plan on leaving at a certain time to hit the gym at a certain time, So, it does take up a lot of your life. And, the food aspect is the hardest part. There's plenty of memes out there that talks about, like, I saw one yesterday. It was like what people think is the hard part, and it shows like dumbbells, and it said what's really the hard part, and it
Yep.
shows meal prep, and it's like the meals really is like the hard part. And I've always said that. You guys have always heard me say that. The food will always be the hardest part, especially in, like, if you're more lifestyle, kind of individual for fitness, then it's not as bad. But when it comes to bodybuilding, it's much more difficult. A lot of the food
I think it's still way up there in terms of dedication needed, even on the lifestyle side of things, because
yeah,
people who try, like, the classic PF user at January, I'm going to lose 20 pounds this year, and they think that just adding the membership is going to do it. Like, the dieting and the food is where it comes from.
yeah. I mean, it's still difficult. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, in comparison, it's bodybuilding. The lifestyle of bodybuilding for food wise is a bit more difficult than just going for lifestyle. Food intake, especially with the leniency, it's a lot more lenient with lifestyle stuff.
Yeah.
Um, with bodybuilding is very, very meticulous. There is no leniency. You have to stick to the plan. You have to be on top of it and make sure you're not really having out anything outside the plan, because it'll take away from your physique. So it can be very difficult. I mean, right now I'm even trying to get down to, like, I'm trying to dial it in at the most ideal times, but I'm trying to get down my food to the minute roughly, of eating, if I can. I mean, work kind of gets in the way sometimes, but, if I can, I'd like to get my meals down to the very minute, eating at, 8 o'clock in the morning, then eating at 11:30, then eating at 2:30, then eating at 4:30, then eating at, when I'm done with the gym, and then eating at 9:30 for bed. So I'm trying to eat at the same exact time every single day. So it gets very meticulous. So as much as it makes me sad to hear that, you can't keep up with the food and you're going to prioritize other things, I understand.
Yeah.
So
And like the how you were talking about dialing it into almost like the minute, I can't even dial it into within like a 5 hour spread with my work. Like there's
yeah,
days where I just don't get to eat when I teach because of everything going on. So that's an 8 hour chunk of not being able to eat.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, part of my plan that my coach has written out, he says, do not go longer than 4 hours without eating. It's
yep.
like big capitalized letters. Do not go more than 4 hours. And I approach 4 hours waiting for my second meal, but my second meal is just chicken, and I'm also getting ready for the day and starting my work day and whatnot. So I go 3.5 hours, but that's my longest stretch. The rest of the day is 3 hours, 2 hours, maybe two and a half, another
Yeah,
maybe
see
two. It's
I
all
don't
pretty
have the
close.
ability to do that.
Yeah. So that's tough because
Then
if
I
you
start
can't,
packing in those mega meals and that just doesn't work.
yeah, it fucks up your digestion. And then also on top of that, like if you were to get more involved with bodybuilding itself, show prep or, anabolic cycles, stuff like that, you need to be even more meticulous with your food than you were now. So I think it's good that you recognized it now rather than realizing it too late, that like you're like, oh shit, I can't really keep up with it. And now that I'm taking all this shit, I have to really force myself to do all of this, and this sucks, and I can't enjoy it, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
I think it's good that you recognize the issue now and kind of addressed it and
Well, my
created a
coach
plan.
also runs his business with I forget the other dude's name, but he's I talked with during my conversation with the coach when we had, the departure. He was like, "Yeah, my guy over there has won like 3 or 4, shows and he has never once touched any anabolics. So it's
Mhm.
possible, like at least on the local level.
Yeah,
So
regionally for sure.
yeah, so I figure I'm just gonna keep being an animal and just maintain because I can maintain this weight. There's no
Hmm.
question about it. Even like when I don't hit, like even I know what it is about my body, but like even when I don't reach like 2,000 calories, so like a dummy low amount, I still don't waver all that much. I think the lowest I got was when I had COVID, and COVID knocked me down to 192, 193, something like that. And that
Did
was
it
just
bounce
a
back up?
yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
took me like 2 3 weeks to stabilize at 200 again. So I
Yeah.
think that's just. I mean, we've talked about genetic potential, and obviously, potential is the highest. So I'm not going to say that this is the genetic potential, but this is like the what I'm viewing as the genetic standard for my frame
I mean,
because
it's like your metabolic standard essentially.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
because even if because there was a stretch of time like last month where I was pounding big ass meals and I was soaring above 4,000 calories like
Yeah.
for like a solid week. I mean, well, more than probably like week and a half, 2 week because I was just really locked in and eating a ton. And like I got maybe like a little bit out of it, but for the most part, my body just really regulates itself around the 200-pound mark. And I've added size, so it's not like I'm, you know, not gaining size or not toning or anything like that. So I'm just gonna live with it and, just now since I'm just maintaining, I'm gonna super prioritize bringing my abs back because during the diet really added a lot of fats to my diet and that kind of padded on top of my abs. Like if I do like a quad ab flex, I can still pop them out, but just standing there, they're not all that visible anymore. So now the prioritizing now my the words priorities back in the gym are going to be adding in maybe two specific ab workouts throughout the week, just to add in that little bit of touch again, because we kind of weren't focusing heavy on that just to get size like in my legs, and arms were kind of lacking a little bit. But now, since I'm just maintaining and I don't have to worry about packing on a ton of size, I'm just going to work on bringing those bad boys back.
Yeah, that'll be good. I think, I mean, also you have tons of time too. That's the other thing too, is that like just because you stop it now doesn't mean you can't pick it back up later.
Yeah, I'm
Granted,
25.
yeah, there is a clock on it. Like we can't do this forever, but like if you put a stop to it now, and then like 3 years from now, you're like, all right, let's pick it back up. Then it's not the end of the world. I mean, you still got plenty of time to really,
Well, even
get
if
wherever
we
you want
went
to go.
even went 5 years to 30, didn't Ronnie, we don't just win at like 32 or something like
I think
that?
his first O was 32 or something like
Yeah.
that. Pretty sure. Um, but yes, I mean, there's plenty of time, and we've talked about it before. How we, as men, we basically peak our physique, or our like physically, we peak between like 28 and 32 ish. A lot of the time, that's why when guys say like, oh, this year is really the year that everything clicked no matter what I did, it's probably because they're in that age range right there. Is they peaked and their body's just responding extremely well to everything. They're really growing, they're losing fat, whatever it is. So ideally, if you can get into it again prior to that age range, then you'd probably be in good shape. But I mean, you gotta set your priorities now, and you know, um,
Yeah, and especially just with what I have going on in my personal life, like
mhm.
I need time to dedicate to that because it's a very delicate situation right now. So I just need to prioritize that
Yeah,
above everything else.
yeah, it makes sense. Um, but with that being said, um, my recent plan has been updated. So
I was gonna say Paul and I went in two separate directions this week.
yeah, basically, you kind of cut it off with your coach, and I'm getting more in depth. So
Allegedly,
basically,
allegedly.
allegedly, my plan has changed. Allegedly, I'm taking different stuff. Allegedly, everything's allegedly. We're just speaking
So
hypotheticals.
hypothetically speaking,
Hypothetically speaking, if I
no
was
Ben
taking
Shapiro
this,
on
this would be
this.
my plan. Yeah. So hypothetically, my plan is we should be hitting a stage within 12 weeks, give or take. Um, I asked my coach, after I got the new plan, I was like, hey, just for my own like mindset, essentially setting goals in my head. Um, I was like, hey, so is there like a plan for a show? I was like, not necessarily plan for the show timing, but like, do we know roughly if we're like in prep in quotations right now, or like if we're a certain amount of weeks out, give or take? And he's like, don't go posting how many weeks out you are. We haven't picked the show yet, but he's like, we should be within the 12-week mark now. I was like, all right, sweet. So we're in the 12-week mark
Ben
now.
goes and posts 12 weeks out.
I posted a like 6-year-old photo of myself on my Instagram story, and I was like 28 million weeks out trying to get dicey dice. But it was like I had zero muscle tone, like zero actual muscle in my system. So it was kind of funny. But
Yeah.
I've joked around with that with my coach. I was like, what you should do for your next, this is like a couple of years ago, that I said this. I was like, when he was getting prepped for nationals, which he ended up winning overall. I was like, what you should do is like 2 weeks out from the show, post like a terrible condition photo, like when you were like at peak bulk, just like as fat as you've ever been, and be like 2 weeks out from the show, getting peeled. Just throw everybody off. Like think that like you're just like no vascularity, bad lighting, like just like pick the worst photo possible and be like 2 weeks out and just like throw people off.
Really holding on to the water for this show.
Yeah, my goal is to just
we're,
come in like a fucking water
we're,
buffalo.
we're going camel mode.
Yeah, legit.
Want
But
to see
it's
my humps? flatbread.
Yeah, that's disgusting. But yeah, no, it's that's what I was telling him. It was just funny. It was just a joke. But yeah, so I posted that as a joke. But yeah, so we're within give or take 12 weeks. We're not exactly sure which show it's going to be. It could be a show in the Carolinas. It could be a show in Georgia. Who knows? But we'll pick it, when my body's
I don't
ready.
know.
When
I think Massachusetts sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell's up there, honestly. The only show that I know up in Massachusetts is the Cutler Classic, but I don't think that's going on at the time I'd be up there.
Yeah.
Um, and even if he did pick one, it's okay. I'll go visit family and friends, but um, we'll see. I don't know. But also regional, I feel like a regional show in Massachusetts would be kind of a waste of time, considering like there's really no reason for me to travel just for a regional show when there's like plenty within driving distance down here.
Yeah, you kind of have like a mini hub of shows down there, which is
Essentially,
nice.
yeah, I could even go down. I mean, I would say I can go down to Florida, but like that's when you're kind of approaching like I might as well go north if I like go up to New York if I was going to do that. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I
so
mean, you have more. I mean, your side of the family, more family up here. So if that was the move, I'd see you doing New York instead.
yeah. I mean, for a national show, if we were going to go hit a national show, I have no idea
Well,
where
I
it
mean,
would be, but it could be anywhere in the country for a
yeah, I
national
mean,
show.
in the sense like if you're gonna move to a specific gym to be around specific shows, that's more so what I meant.
Yeah. I mean, if I was going to move anywhere, if I was going to move anywhere to focus on bodybuilding, it would be one of three places. It would either be like Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. Um, I would either that or Dallas, Texas, or Las Vegas. Those would probably be one of the three places I would move to kind of focus on bodybuilding if I was going to kind of do something like that. Um, that's my opinion. I mean, I couldn't. I don't think I'd ever be able to handle New England weather again. So, like in theory, I'd be like, oh, I'd love to just go to the Bev Francis powerhouse, but it's like at the same time, it's like I can't fucking do New York weather anymore or New England weather
Yeah,
anymore, whatever. So, Dallas is destination Dallas. There's a 3 million gyms down the Fort Lauderdale and Miami area that are amazing, including the Redcon One gym. I mean, one that's really not too far is the Redcon One gym in Nashville, Tennessee. That's probably like 6 hour drive, 5 6 hours. It's not too far. But yeah,
what's your commute for the gym? I do 6 hours each way.
there's there's a powerlifting gym in I think it's Cincinnati. I forget what it's called. There's a documentary about it. One of the guys, it was like the Godfather powerlifting is the guy who owned it. And like people would like move there to lift at that powerlifting gym, and it was so fucking hardcore. I forget what it's called. Madhouse. Shit, I forget.
Yeah,
Um, but this one guy was saying that he drove 3.5 hours to the gym every day. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. That's just dumb.
you
I'm
have to
like, as
do a
much,
meal each way.
yeah, like you're spending literally more than half your time awake driving to the gym every day. Not to mention lifting at the gym. Like
Yeah.
that's just
Well,
unbelievable.
if it's like his moneymaker, I can get that. I can understand
I
that.
don't think it was. I mean, the guy in the documentary. I mean, he was ex-con and like he's torn tons of muscles powerlifting and just fucked his joints and everything, and he's still doing it. And I'm like, like I don't know. Granted, he had a
Yeah.
powerlifter's physique. Like he was born for powerlifting because he had super short frame. His hands didn't really go past his fucking waist. Like his legs were so short. Like he was built for powerlifting. Like his range of motion was fucking 1 inch for every movement. So he was built for it. But yeah, it's just wild that people drive that far. I mean, I wouldn't even drive fucking more than 30 minutes to the gym one way. I mean, there's one of the best gyms arguably in the Carolinas is 35 minutes for me, and I just won't do it. I'm just nope. It's just I just I don't want to spend over an hour driving when most of the time I don't spend more than an hour in the gym. You know,
Yeah.
it's just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I do 25, 20-ish minutes depending if I drive fast cuz I mean, Empire
That's
used to be
now.
yeah, Empire used to be,
Yeah.
like a I mean, even still it was probably like 20 minutes because I'd have to drive through the city to get there. So I'm not really gaining or losing any time on that.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I thought you were closer before, but maybe it's because you're taking a lot of
and
back roads.
yeah, like proximity wise, yes, but it was it's so out of my way to get hop on the highway where I was living. So I
Yeah,
would drive through two towns, and
yeah,
that means I'm dealing with the traffic, and that's a lot right there. So
yeah. Especially that
I don't
main
really
street
lose or
bullshit.
gain any time right now, but I think like I mentioned earlier, if things with my personal life progress to a point that I want them to, I'm probably going to tack on a gym in the Gardner area,
Vanarchy.
which means Vanarchy.
Oh! Yeah, I really hope you fucking go to Vanarchy, dude. I preach
So
Vanarchy all day.
yeah, but that's only if, and I'm not going to give up Empire either. It's just I'm going to add on another gym, so I'll have
Yeah,
two memberships going. Just because there's going to be times when I want to be able to hit a lift and not leave the area. But that's only dependent on things going on in my life. If
yeah,
everything stays as they are now, I'm just going to stay at Empire.
yeah. I mean, I'll always preach Vanarchy, and like sometimes it's like it's funny having two memberships because in the past, like I've had two memberships, and you do kind of end up leaning towards one gym.
Yeah,
Um, so excuse me, it's tough. Um, having multiple memberships. That's why, like, kind of right now, I'm just having one. My Gold's gym membership is frozen until June, just because I wanted to take a break from Gold's, and that's what I was convinced to do by the manager, or whatever. And I was like, fuck it, whatever. If I decide to cancel, I'll just cancel by then because my contract's up, so they can't really do anything about it. So I froze it till June, but I'm considering re-upping it just because it's like $30 a month. It's month to month. I'm pretty sure. Um, and I get three gyms. I get access to three gyms in the Charlotte area, and then one of the gyms has the new, or not new, but like the in-body analysis now, so I can see like roughly my fat percentage and shit. And then they also have a posing room at that gym too. So
ooh,
I have considered that, but the problem is not necessarily the equipment at this rate. It's I can't use a tripod. I can't lift without my shirt on. I can't do posing without a shirt on. I mean, unless you're in the posing room, that's different. But I can't do it on the floor,
yeah,
and it just gets so fucking busy. So it's like, do I really even want to bother? I like because like the problem is like when because most of the time I lift Monday through Saturday. Most of the time I'm lifting I'm going at like 6 o'clock. And now that I'm officially up and running with my job, I got my paycheck coming in tomorrow. I'm done DoorDash and Uber Eats and shit. I'm going to be getting to the gym probably between 5 and 5:30 most likely, which is peak time. So if I were to go to Gold's at any point, like I'd be fucking waiting for machines all day. But the gym I go to now is so like kind of underground ish. Like it's known, but it's like enough to be like there's not many people that go there. So I never really have to wait for anything. So it's like, do I really want to push myself to a gym that like I have to fucking wait for everything? So
yeah,
it's got to weigh. I got to weigh my pros and cons. But then I'm like, I could afford potentially like a better gym, which is the one we went to for my bachelor party. But then I'm like, do I really want to like have a $30 gym membership and like a 60 or $100 membership, depending on what I want to get, and have two gym memberships that like one is good for this, one is I don't know. It's just like that's just so much money. So
yeah. I think it also depends too on how the new job ends up going, like how much you're able to do commission wise and whatnot. So like
yeah,
if it
it's
if it turns into a good like you're up there doing well, then I say
yeah,
just get, because you like to bounce around gyms. That's the thing that you like to do. So having a
mhm,
good variety will only benefit you. But obviously
yeah.
make sure the financials are in order.
Yeah, I mean the thing other so with the new my new job, I'm actually killing it right now. I'm crushing it. So I'm not really worried about the commission. I think I'll be doing good. But when this time next year, we're hoping to be in a house potentially. So I also don't want to sign another contract for another gym. Where we could be moving within a year. We might be moving by the end of this year. Who knows? So I might wait till that. And if we're moving, we're most likely, I can't say for sure, but most likely moving north. We're going to stay within the area because my wife works in the area. So we're going to stay within the area, but most likely move north. And if we move north, then I'll just wait and just start going to Crush It. Because if we move anywhere north, that's when it becomes more worth it to go to Crush It. Because if I'm within probably 20 to 25 minutes, I'll start going to Crush It. But that's the other time with Crush It is that whenever I go to the gym is like rush hour. So I probably end up sitting in a lot of traffic trying to get to Crush It because that's along 77, which is the major highway going through Charlotte. So that's the other problem with going up there. So
That's
if we're closer, then I'll go there.
that's what happens right now with Empire, with my gym right now. Like my time when I can go to the gym is like four or five,
Yeah.
which is just peak hours at Empire. I'm
Yeah.
telling, like, there's 50 people in gym one minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah. There's
It
maybe
is
that many
packed in
members on
there.
my gym. I've seen maybe that many individuals on my gym over
Yeah.
throughout the entire day because I've gone at different times. So yeah, no, that Empire gets really busy, but it's also like the best gym in the Leominster-Fitchburg area.
Yep.
So it's understandable that it has that many people. And it's also
Well, I
like the
used
best
to.
by like a long shot too. Like it's
Oh yeah.
nothing really even comes close, you know? I think if Fitchburg Strength and Fitness became 24 hours, that could be arguable, but like it's like 8 to 8 or something. It's like some bullshit hours. So it's like, that's the only one that's arguably good. But other than
Yeah.
that, Fitchburg, Leominster area, they're all shit. Crunch sucks. Global sucks. I mean, there's really no other gym that's good in the area.
Yeah. And it's just I used to go at like, the post 7 p.m.
Yeah.
So like the night rush, and I didn't really see many, high schoolers or anything like that.
Hmm.
But at the 4 to 5 range, my God, the broccoli heads are there.
All the
It's
Sarm
bad.
goblins. We
It's
go
bad.
gym. We go gym. All
It's
the
like,
chalk
how many
boys.
chest days did you hit this week?
Yeah, for real. Like overhyped on pre workout too. Like I'm just like I'm so upset that We Go Gym got ruined by that group. I'm just like
Yep.
it was so cool at first. Like it was like hyped up, like We Go Gym, like yeah, let's hit the gym. And then all the
Hmm.
broccoli heads took it over and I'm just like, oh fuck. And just ruined
Yep.
it. They're trying to go for deadlift PRs every single time they lift. And we're not all right. So those listening, we're not trying to be toxic or anything. It's just um it, the problem
There's a
is
certain culture you need to abide by, and a lot of people haven't reached that maturity level, and that's
yes,
more so what we mean by that.
there is maturity that you build in the gym, and the problem with social media and all of that is it promotes immaturity, um, and we see that come out with different age groups, and that's what we're talking about. And it sucks because we want you to be there, we want more people to be at the gym, but when you roll up in squads of 4 or 5 guys deep and you're hogging a bench for 40 minutes, just going for 1 rep PRs, it gets annoying.
Yep.
And it's just not proper gym etiquette. And that's the biggest thing is that people don't talk about gym etiquette. Really, the only ones who do now is Joey Swole and Noel Diesel. So it's like, besides the people who follow him, which most of the time, the guys who follow those guys are more our age versus guys who are teenagers. So the teenagers follow guys who don't show proper gym etiquette typically or really even talk about it. So you never really
Hmm.
see it from a lower age group. So if you're listening and you're in the teenage group, please just learn basic gym etiquette. It'll go a long way and you get a lot more respect from people around you. Um, so please do that. Please just learn proper gym etiquette. It will take time. We've talked about it before. Gym etiquette takes time to learn. There are a lot of nuances. There's a lot of gray areas. But it'll become second nature to you over time, and just kind of watch how people, the bigger guys especially, watch how they interact with individuals and how they treat the gym and all of that. I mean, the thing that also pisses me off too is like I get it when a gym has like no chalk rules and stuff like that. Whatever. I don't need to use chalk. But like the biggest, strongest guys in the gym almost never use chalk. But then you see kids like or guys who really don't know what they're doing new in the gym using chalk. It's like, dude, you don't really need to use chalk. You're not at the point where like you're lifting such heavy weight your grip can't even actually lift the bar. Like
Yeah.
you're not that guy. Not
I
yet.
chalk. The only time I chalk is deadlift PRs, but like I don't think I've done a deadlift PR in, oh god,
Yeah.
6 months, maybe 7 months, something like that. Like it's so. I mean, granted, PRs aren't really in our vocabulary anyways, but still, I only do it too because it's
Yeah.
the hardest part for me is the grip. So because I can move the weight, I just need to lock in the grip.
But even then, it's not like chalk isn't necessarily even for your grip. It's so that it doesn't slip. So
But
like
that's
your
grip though.
grip, yeah, but like your grip can still lift it. You're just like
Yes.
the chalk is so that it doesn't slip out of your hands from like sweat and shit. It keeps your hands dry. So like it just doesn't make any sense to be like, within your first year of the gym using chalk,
Yeah, I will
you
agree
know?
for that. Yeah.
So like that's my thing is that like chalk has its use. Don't get me wrong. There's absolutely uses for chalk. Same with
I'm
liquid chalk
chalking my
and
hands. I'm chalking my hands for these dumbbell curls, baby.
yeah, for real. Like it's fucking toxic. But like there's liquid chalk too, which you should not be using on public equipment. Do not use liquid chalk. If you have a personal gym, use that. Or you can use liquid chalk on your own shit, but don't use liquid chalk on somebody else's bar. But yeah, regular chalk just doesn't. It's hard to find a um place that allows it, but there are gyms that allow it. When I went to Elite Fitness, which is a great gym, if you guys are in the Huntersville area, go to Elite. I will always preach Megaflex as well, but Elite is a phenomenal gym, and they provide chalk. They have chalk bowls there, so you don't have
Yeah,
to bring your own chalk, which is cool.
that's what Empire does.
Yep, yeah. So they provide chalk for those that need it. Not that many people needed it, but it's there, and yeah. So it just gets toxic. So we're on this tangent. Let's reel it back here. So my plan now, the new program is within 12 weeks or so. So to kind of wrap up what we were saying, you can make progress at any gym, and you can bulk, you can cut, you can do all of that at pretty much any gym. It just kind of matters on how you want to manipulate the weight, on how you want to manipulate what you're doing. For me, being so fresh into prep, it doesn't really matter. I'm kind of keeping my training the exact same. When you're getting closer to the show itself, when you're getting leaner and leaner, when you're at the point where you're very, very low body fat percentage, especially like within 2 weeks of a show, you really need to kind of change up what you're doing. Especially the week coming up to it. The week going up to it, you're going to be doing a bit less lifting, more rest than anything. And when you are lifting, it's a lot of times going to be more whole body stuff, a lot of reps, like a lot of volume, but you're not really ever to failure. You don't want to get inflamed. You don't want to potentially even risk an injury. So the week out from a show, your training becomes more like multiple body groups. I know when Chewy was prepping for regional show, and then it was going to be a national show a couple weeks after that. So when he was prepping for the Shelby show here, which was in June last year, I think, him and I hit Fitness Factory, and we did like some back, some chest, and some arms, I think, and a little bit of shoulders. So it was like basically a whole upper body day. Granted, we were there for almost 3 hours. It's a fucking long ass workout, and coach was pissed at him because he'd flamed his whole entire fucking upper body because we went hard. But that's kind of what you're looking at when it comes to prepping for a show. So with that being said, the next month or so, a little over a month, really going to be pushing it to lose this stubborn baby fat that I've had my whole life. So allegedly, the plan for anabolics is test propionate, mastron propionate, and trenbolone acetate. So it's 300 milligrams of tren prop, 300 milligrams of mastron prop, and 100 milligrams of tren. So the reason I am allegedly looking at this plan is because I want to be. So the reason I talk about it, these alleged plans, is because I want to be transparent with everybody listening, everybody watching, everybody who knows me on social media, whatever it is, because we've always talked about, the difference between natural genetics and genetics on anabolics and the differences in all of that. And the reality is, if you can lift naturally and you can compete naturally, do that. But the look you're going to get naturally is not the look that I want. The look that I want is enhanced. The look that I want is on anabolics. Anybody who has a crazy looking physique that you're like, damn, that guy looks insane, he's almost guaranteed to be on anabolics, because anabolics gives a look. We've talked about it in the past too, where like anabolics helps you get to certain places. It pushes you past your genetic limit, stuff like that. But on top of that, something that I don't mention enough is that Anabolics gives a look. It gives you an actual physical look that naturally you could never achieve. Very, very seldom people could ever achieve an anabolic look naturally. The only people have been the hyper elite. And even then, a lot of them are at least on like TRT and shit. Like Ronnie Coleman, I don't think he was on TRT, but like he was like one of the exceptions naturally that like looked really good naturally until he got on shit. And so he's an example of that, but very seldom do we ever see someone naturally that looks crazy. Like even C-Bum naturally. Yeah, he looked great at 18 naturally, whatever it is, but he did not look like he was using anabolics. He did not look like he was competing in bodybuilding. He just
He
had
looked
a
like a
muscle.
yeah, it was like an athletic build.
Yeah, exactly. It's just naturally he looked really good naturally, but it's just he didn't have the look yet. But getting on anabolics really gives you that look. And we know how my body responds to everything, so we're gonna kick it into high gear the next like 5-6 weeks, lose the stubborn baby fat, which is my ultimate goal. Do I want to win a regional show and win overall? Absolutely. Is that the plan? Yes. But really my goal in my head is I need to lose this fat so that I can have a better overall fat distribution after this. That's my big goal because my biggest downfall to my physique is my lower belly fat. It really pulls away from my overall physique. And we just know that if we can lose that belly fat, lose my love handles that I have had my whole life, everything will kind of come together. I've been really reinforced by my coach stating that I have a very competitive physique. I was born for men's physique. I can crush it in men's physique. We just need to lose this fat. I have a naturally also very, very small waist. So when people say waist, they typically mean around like where your pants are. And that's what I'm talking about is where your pants sit. Technically your waist is above your belly button, but my actual bone waist essentially, I can get down to about a 25 size waist roughly. When
Which
I
is
was at my
wild.
Yeah, when I was at my leanest with my coach, is about 170. My 26 size pants were kind of big on me. They're kind of falling a little bit. So that's when we kind of knew I was built for men's physique because my waist is exceedingly small when we lose the fat. So we just got to get to that point. So we're gonna have to trim it down, and I mean I probably sit around a 30 to 32, even at my biggest, around 205, 206. My biggest, I was probably sitting at like a 32, 33, something like that. So we got to lose the fat. But with the next 5-6 weeks, the reason we're taking this, I'll kind of dive into it a little bit. So test, for those that don't know, when it comes to anabolics, the second word typically in an anabolic steroid is what's called the ester. The ester is essentially the amount of time it takes your body to metabolize it within its system. So, you might hear testosterone enanthate. You might hear testosterone cypionate. You'll hear testosterone propionate. You'll even hear sustanon. People would say, so the abbreviations for all of these is you'll see test sus, test sip, test prop, test eth, or even test e, depends on who you're talking to. And then you'll even just see straight up testosterone, which you can get just straight testosterone, no ester. And then there's also other esters that are on other anabolics, including acetate. So acetate is another ester. You don't typically see like testosterone acetate. It's just a type of binding ester. It doesn't really react well to binding with testosterone. So when you're an ester is added to the base anabolic essentially. So testosterone is combined with the ester in order for your body to metabolize it in a different way. So typically the past 2 years, really, I've only ever taken testosterone enanthate, which is a slow metabolizing half-life. And what I mean by half-life is given the half-life so like, let's say the half-life for test prop is like 4.5 days. Over that 4.5 day span, by 4.5 days after you've pinned, half of the testosterone in your system is gone, essentially. Like what you pinned is actually gone. Then another 4.5 days is another half of that. So that's 25% gone. Another 4.5 is 12.5%. So that's what a half-life is half of it is gone. for that every, block of that period of time. So testosterone inanthate sits in your system for an extremely long period of time. Any sort of inanthate sits in your system for a very long period of time. The reason we're running prop for masteron and testosterone is because propionate is very, very short half-life. It's like borderline hours, even like a day roughly. So it helps with shows because you can pull. So like, let's say like I'm taking test prop and masteron prop and we're like this, like I'm doing a weigh-in. Most likely over the next 12 weeks, my weigh-ins will increase in like actual frequency. Like I do one once a week right now, but that'll probably increase. But like, let's say we're at a point where we're like, okay, we need to pull the masteron and swap it to Winstrol. We can do that because I'm on propionate. It's pretty quick out of my system. We don't have to worry about it sitting in there for fucking 4 weeks. You know what I mean? Where an inanthate will do that. An inanthate will sit in your system for a very long time. When it comes to shows, inanthates inanthates in general are typically more powerful because it sits in your system for so long. So you're just stacking it, right? You're stacking pin after pin after pin after pin. But so for a show, you need to pull it out much sooner. So like masteron prop, we might need to pull it out 4 or 5 weeks. Sorry, not masteron prop, masteron inanthate, we might need to pull it out 4, 5, 6 weeks from the show if we don't plan on running it the entire time because it's such a long half-life. So we could only really hypothetically run masteron inanthate for like 6 weeks with this program. But with masteron prop, we can run it up until basically the day we want to take it out. Same with test prop. But the other thing too is that the reason I'm taking this is because my coach and I respond very, very, very similarly to anabolics. Not quite food. We have different food requirements. But when it comes to anabolics, we respond extremely similarly. So he knows he gets phenomenal results from prop for shows. So he's going to have me on prop for everything. Besides the trend. So the masteron and the test, we both know, him and I both know that I respond very well to. So we're just going to run that. The masteron is a DHT, which is a dihydrogen testosterone derivative, basically. So we know that when I take masteron, I shed the fat and put on a little bit of muscle. Testosterone prop is going to help with that as well. You can use test in any way. You can use it bulking, cutting, cruising, whatever. Test is the baseline for basically everything. So we're going to run testosterone prop 300 milligrams to, help with maintaining or building muscle and losing fat. Then the third one, which has probably piqued most people's interest, is trenbolone acetate. Trenbolone acetate is the third anabolic I'm going to be taking for about 5 to 6 weeks. It's not going to be a very long cycle, and it's also a very, very small cycle as well. 100 milligrams is a very, very low dose. Beginner cycles usually start about 150 milligrams, and advanced to like intermediate to advanced cycles who've used Tren in the past, they get up to about 400 milligrams. So it's a pretty small dose, but it's going to help kickstart everything over the next 5-6 weeks. So I'll be starting that this week coming up.
And you might be able to avoid a lot of the mental scaries on a smaller scale cycle.
Yes. Yeah, there would be hypothetically less side effects. We don't know exactly how I'll respond to it. We don't, because we've never run it before. So we're going to see how I react to it. I think that's also kind of part of it too. We don't want to put too much in my system if I'm going to react negatively to it. So it's going to be a good kickstarting anabolic essentially. Typically Tren is the one that everybody talks about within social media, and there's a lot of common misconceptions with it. Yes, trenbolone acetate is a very potent anabolic, and it will change the way your physique looks. But a lot of the time, people associate Tren with putting on size and losing fat, and that's not really what it's for. Trenbolone acetate, I believe, was developed for cows. Was for helping cows put on muscle, but mainly losing fat, which I believe is the case.
Well, all of these are for cows and animals. So when
Yeah,
Paul talks about it, it's for his pet cow that he's talking about.
Yeah, it's also for research purposes too, to put in my cows. So I'm going to see how they react to it. Let me see if I can find out where did Tren even start. Let me see if I can find that out. But so basically it was sold under brand name Finajet and Finaplex. It was used in veterinary medicine specifically to increase the profitability of livestock by promoting muscle growth in cattle. It is given by injection into muscle. So it was for cattle, livestock, to grow as much muscle as possible before they're transported to a slaughterhouse. So that's what it's for, essentially. A tren is a completely separate derivative, essentially, from anything you've ever taken. You can call it an alpha 9 nor depending on who you're talking to, but it's a 19 nor derivative. So the actual name for that, let me look up it. I always forget the full name. So nandrolone is another one. Let me look up the anabolic chart. I love this chart. It's so helpful.
Remember to study in chemistry class, everybody.
Yeah, you'll learn how to make anabolics. No, but don't do that.
Imagine the broccoli heads homebrew their anabolics.
Oh gosh, that would be so bad. All right, yeah. So nandrolone it's a type of nandrolone. So there's two types of nandrolones. It's called a 19 nortestosterone. There's trenbolone, which people call trenbolone sandwiches. Tren Ace, whatever you want to call it, tren. And there's also trestolone. Trestolone is also called ment, MENT. So you might see people say ment, nth, ment ace, whatever it is, which is trestolone. Trestolone is essentially like, from my understanding, I know there's more to it, but it's essentially like a very powerful testosterone, essentially, that's very toxic, but has really profound benefits, I think. But it's like the risk to, like, the ROI is just really not there when it comes to trestolone. So most guys who've run trestolone just say it's really not worth it. Yeah, you make gains off it, but you end up fucking yourself in the other end, So that's kind of where tren comes in. It's a nandrolone. So it's something that we've never taken before. So we're going to see how I respond to it. So it's dihydrotestosterone is what Masteron is, which I was also taking Primo previously. I've taken Anavar in the past. A lot of what dihydrotestosterones will do is they have usually a focus of either maintaining muscle and shedding fat or putting on muscle. There's really no in between. So like Primo is one that puts on weight. Primobolan, whatever you want to call it. Metenolone, inanthate, whatever you want to call it, is one that helps put on weight, put on muscle, which is what I've been running for a little bit now. We're officially off that. We're going on Masteron. Masteron is going to help with maintaining / building a little bit of muscle and losing fat, which we've run in the past. And I looked at the differences, and there's some pretty good differences between when I start Masteron and when I end it. And then there's the big one. So there's two other big ones that a lot of people know about. So Anavar is a big one. I've taken Anavar. Anavar is awesome. That one really, like, the biggest thing for me with Anavar, that's my first ever cycle. I was just so fucking angry all the time. It really increased my irritability. So be careful of that if you guys are going to take Anavar. The other thing with Anavar is that it's an oral typically, and orals are very toxic on your liver. So you really shouldn't be taking orals too much. You should try to inject as much as possible if you're going to take steroids. For those that are listening, I'm talking from essentially an advanced perspective here, because I would never promote that you guys ever take this shit. Like, don't ever take it. If you can avoid it, do not take it. The only time I ever think that somebody should potentially take it is if they reach their national peak genetics, they have proper guidance, and they plan on competing at a professional level in bodybuilding. That's the only time you should ever take it. A very specific circumstance. That's why, Christoph was exploring the idea of it, at least with his coach, exploring the potential for it in the future, not necessarily
Exactly.
something he's going to be doing soon. So, and which I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad that he, created that or figured out the situation now versus in the future when he did get to that point. Because I've talked about it before, when you take anabolics, there is no going back. You're never going to be natural again. Your levels are never going to go back to natural levels.
Well,
You
no,
can
see,
go.
that's not true, because Liver King's natural.
Yeah, with the 9 intercostal tendons, you can get back to natural. And he's been natural for 6 weeks now, so he's fully natural. Don't worry about him.
Yeah, just send your balls.
Yeah, same with Dwayne Johnson. He's been fully natural his whole life. So you can get off stuff and get back to relatively normal levels, but your body's never going to produce it naturally the way it used to. It's like, how do I explain it? It's like, I don't know. It's like opening Pandora's box. Once you open it, you can't close it. You can kind of get back to normal for the most part, but you're not going to be exactly where you were. But then again, science has come such a far way. We've realized that like if you're 35 and up or 40 and up, you really should be on TRT for a better lifestyle anyways. So it's not like, it's not like even if you don't take stuff, it's not like, 20 years from now when you're 45, you're not going to be taking testosterone. You could be taking a TRT, situation to help with overall lifestyle. That's something that Joe Rogan preaches about a lot. If you guys
Yep.
listen to Joe Rogan, he preaches TRT and HRT because it just
He's
genuinely
also very, very transparent about it.
yes, which is good. You should be transparent. And that's what I preach. That's why I'm preaching all of this because I hate fucking fake naturals. If you don't want to talk about it, that's one thing, right? If you don't want to talk about it, don't ask me about it, don't talk about it. That's one thing, But if you're like, oh, I'm natural, this is the naturally attainable, I'm not taking anything, but then you are, that's what's damaging, which we've talked about in the past. But Joe Rogan's very transparent, which is great. And I'm glad that he is. And he preaches TRT because he just lives a generally better life on TRT. He feels so much better. He makes progress in the gym. He has more energy throughout the day. His hormones are obviously in a much better place. So TRT I'll always preach for those that need it. And, some guys our age do need it. I was almost at the point where I needed it. I was on the lower end of the spectrum for average testosterone. So I was borderline needing TRT regardless of anabolics. So there are some of us that need it. So this is where I'm coming from when I'm talking about all of this. So when it comes to Anavar, to go back what I was saying, and increase my irritability drastically, I kept it under control. And that's something I'm very proud of is I can keep a lot of my emotions very much under control, especially my anger. It's taken a lot for me to get to where I am now, but that's something that Anavar really made difficult was my irritability. There are times where I wanted to fight people for like nothing, like no real reason. Granted, I just took a second, took a deep breath, and I'm like, they did nothing wrong. This is just what's going on in my brain right now. It's the chemical imbalance. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And then I'm fine. Then the next biggest one. So Anadrol is another big one. Not many people take Anadrol. It's very toxic, but it like really changes your physique. That's another oral, I believe. But then Winstrol is another big one. If you talk to anybody who's ever prepped for a show that uses anabolics, they've probably taken Winstrol. It's also called Winnie. You'll hear people say Winnie, Winstrol. The actual name for it is tenazolol. Stanozolol. Stanozolol is the actual name for it. But people say Winstrol or Winnie. That's a cutting agent. Typically you run that 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks out from a show, and it's just going to just shred the fat off your system. So that's another big one. That's a DHT derivative. The biggest obviously being Masteron and Primo. There's also testosterone derivatives. So these are all essentially based off testosterone, but there are direct testosterone derivatives. Equipoise is a big one. So it's called EQ, or also boldenone undeciclinate. People call it boldenone. A person who is a big preacher of EQ is Jay Cutler. His bulking cycles almost entirely consisted of testosterone and EQ. I've taken EQ in the past. I think from my experience, EQ puts too much water and fat on for me. I believe, from what I can remember, it was like over a year ago I ran it. From what I can remember, I'd have to look back at my weigh-ins, but I think I put on a lot of fat with EQ. Some people respond very well, but EQ, you put on a lot of muscle and a lot of strength. Primo is in almost a way like a not so like serious version of EQ in a way. Primo for me didn't put as much fat on, and also didn't put on as much muscle and strength, but Primo also put on a lot less water, and that's my problem is water retention too. So I think EQ kind of made me hold on to a lot of water. The next big one is Dianabol, so D-ball, which is methandrostenolone. Methandrostenolone is D-ball. Pretty much everybody from Arnold to now has taken D-ball. D-ball's been around for fucking decades. Same with testosterone's been around forever.
That's also the meme of when Ronnie went on
Yeah.
Rogan, and you got your basic stuff, your test, your D-ball.
Yeah, he's like,
you know.
just basic stuff, testosterone, D-ball, DECA. So there's the DECA falls in this area too. Not testosterone derivative specifically. I'd have to. It's. I'm pretty sure it is a testosterone derivative, but it's not really. Okay, so DECA is a weird spot because I believe it's derivative of testosterone, but it can actually be taken in place of testosterone. So you can actually run DECA only cycles. So whenever you run an anabolic cycle, you're almost always running it with testosterone, almost always, because you need to have essentially like a baseline, like a base. How do I explain it? It's kind of like running a base level. It's like the cover, right? If the cover of the book, if the pages are the other anabolic, the cover is the testosterone. You need to have something to run whatever you need something to support whatever else you're running. So testosterone is the baseline. Typically, there's also like a lot of bro science, so please just ignore bro science shit about it. But basically, DECA you can run is actually was developed, I'm pretty sure, as a TRT option. Let me look this up here. Let me see the exact origins, but I'm pretty sure DECA was developed for TRT. But you can run DECA, so it's DECA durabolin, which you can run instead of test for TRT. You can run almost like its own test with other anabolics. You shouldn't, but it is possible. Let me see where it started. So nandrolone decanoate. Really? Okay, interesting. So I guess it's a NOR. Really? That's surprising. Okay, I knew something new, or I learned something new today.
I knew something new.
Yeah, so it started, let's see. So it's a nandrolone, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so it was developed. So it's an androgen and anabolic steroid, so AAS, which is used primarily in the treatment of anemias and wasting syndromes, as well as osteoporosis in menopausal women. So it was developed actually to put on muscle, essentially. It's to help people who are anemic, to people who have osteoporosis, and people who have syndromes that are wasting away at their muscles and or fat. So that's what it's helped for or made for. So it is essentially made to put muscle back on. It's essentially made to run instead of testosterone. So DECA falls under 19 norm. All right, so I was wrong. But another big one is Dianabol. And for those that are really deep in this shit, you'll know this next one, halotestin. Halotestin is like the one to run if you want to fuck your entire life up, because halotestin like fucks with you so bad mentally, it's ridiculous. And there's like, you get a little bit of water shedding because that's essentially what it's for. It's to shed water essentially. It's going to help with a little bit of fat loss and some water loss as well. It's a diuretic, but it like will literally ruin your life. Like it fucks with you so bad mentally. Like you get unbelievably paranoid, angry at everybody. And really for no reason, because you're only running it for like 2 weeks. When people run it, they run it for like the last 2 weeks for a show, and it only helps with water a little bit. So it's really not worth it, but it is a testosterone derivative. And another one for those that are more involved as well, you know what T-ball is, Turinabol. So Turinabol came about in the 80s when the Russian Olympic team wanted to take something like D-ball that doesn't hold on to a lot of water, because D-ball, you hold on to a lot of water, you put on a lot of fat, and T-ball is Diridabol, just without the side effects of water and fat. So that's kind of where that came about in the 80s. T-ball, I've tried, didn't really get too much results from it, so I think we ended up pulling it, but it might be because of my source. I think somebody tested the source that I get it from, and the T-ball wasn't fully T-ball, which you'll get. Sometimes you'll get, like, these are illegal substances, guys. These are stuff that you need to, if you want to take properly, you need to go to a doctor and get it prescribed. When you're buying it from individuals, sometimes what you're getting isn't fully what you're getting. T-ball, I think in the case that I got, it wasn't 100% T-ball. I think it was just like 90 or 80% T-ball and some filler, which is, it's going to happen. You got it. That's why, like, when you have proper guidance, part of that proper guidance is proper sourcing. And these sources over many, many years have been tested and found, okay, this is good, this is bad, this guy provides good shit, this guy provides bad shit. So there are forums out there that will tell you who's good, who's bad, whatever. Because these forums, a lot of these forums you got to pay for, and there's a paywall. You can't get in without paying, you got to register, whatever. And sometimes you even run like, kind of like not really a background check, but they ask you questions, make sure that you're not some like cop or something trying to get at the people in the forum. But like the people in the forum, what they'll do is they'll run lab tests on these anabolics from these sources and tell you whether or not, they'll tell the forum, they'll tell the group whether or not it's good. I'm part of a couple forums. I don't pay for them gladly. There's a couple that are free. I'm not going to say where, but I've seen guys testing T-ball, the source that I get it from, and they said, okay, it's not fully T-ball. I think there's a little bit D-ball in there. I'd have to look back into it. But yeah, so that's something to take into account too, is that you got to be careful where you get this shit from. You don't get it from, like, you shouldn't be taking any of this anyways, but if you get it from a guy at your gym, you really know where the fuck it's coming from, because you don't know where this guy's getting it. So
Hey
be
man,
careful.
come to the back room. I got something for you.
Muscle juice, like branded muscle juice, as in pain and gain. Yeah, you got to be careful of that shit, because it can be dangerous if it's bad shit, which I've taken in the past. I've taken bad versions of GH, and I put on like literally 10 pounds of water or something like that in a week, because it was just bad GH. It fucked me and a very, very big pro's physique up. I'm not going to say who, but it fucked somebody else's physique up and really set us back. And my coach is like, yeah, this guy's taking it, and he had very similar results to you. Let's just say he's a guy with over 1 million followers on Instagram. So it sucks that happened, but we learned from it, and now we don't use that source. The team doesn't go to that source for GH. It's just, we had a really bad situation. I put on a lot of water, and it just was really not worth it. GH is its own thing. It's growth hormone, human growth hormone. GH will put on a lot of muscle and a lot of fat loss as well. Rich Piana was famous for his GH use because he used a lot of GH. Liver King used a lot of GH.
If I have 22-inch biceps, who cares how I got them?
Yeah, for real.
Rich Piana.
Yeah, I mean, Rich also used a lot of synthol, and he didn't want to. Like, that's the one which pisses me off, because he's so transparent about everything. Why would he deny the synthol? I mean, tons of guys use synthol. It's pretty common. So it's like, why deny it? But that's a different conversation. But yeah, so GH is up there. It's very, very expensive. I think the bulk of where Liver King spent his money is probably the GH, especially if you're getting pharma grade, which I have a source for I believe Pfizer GH, and it is fucking expensive, dude. So the way GH works is, as far as dosing goes, there's a lot more into it. So I'm talking, like, granted, I have run multiple cycles, but I'm also talking from like a beginner's perspective. I'm not an endocrinologist by any way of the matter, like, so when I'm talking about this stuff, it's my understanding of it, what I've read in forums, what I've read in articles and stuff and studies. This is not something I don't have a degree in it. This is endocrinology, essentially, is what it is, which is hormones. So don't take my word for it. This is probably going to change over time. I'm going to look back probably at this in 3 years and be like, what the fuck was I talking about? So this is probably going to change. But GH, the way it's taken essentially is what's called international units, IUs. Typically, beginner cycles of GH is anywhere from like 2 to 4 IUs. Most guys will say 4 IUs is like the minimum, but it depends on who you're talking to. 2 to 4 IUs per day. And it can get up to about 10, even 12 IUs per day. depending on the person. I know somebody off the top of my head who takes, I think, supposedly 12 IUs a day, which is a fucking shit ton. Um,
And
so
expensive.
very expensive. So I'll dive into that in a second. So you pin, when I say pin, it means inject. You pin GH typically subcutaneously, which is in your fat. You put it typically in your belly fat with a short needle, and you pinch your fat, put it in there, and that's how you pin it every day. And what you want to do with GH is you pin it, and then you wait, I think, like a half hour, and then you eat. You want it to let it metabolize for a minute. So to put the price into perspective, typically you buy GH, I think it's 100 IUs at a time. It comes in powder form, and then you mix it with what's called backwater, which is essentially like zero bacteria at all water, essentially, is when you want to look at it. So you put backwater in there, let it mix for a minute. You don't want to shake it. You just stir it, whatever. And then you inject it that way, keep the molecules active. So 100 IUs, depending on where you go, is anywhere from $250 to $400 for 100 IUs. So for me, when I ran 2 IUs a day, which is very low, very, very, very low dose, and I still reacted the way I did, that was going to be, I think it was almost $350 every month and a half, something like that, which is very expensive for an anabolic. But like, think about it that way. Like, if who I'm thinking about, he goes through one of those packs every like 2 weeks. So he's spending like anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a month on GH alone, let
Absurd.
alone everything else he's taking. So there's also other stuff too. There's T4, there's T3, there's Clen. There's tons of other stuff that adds on to that makes it expensive. But yeah, GH is very expensive. That's its own category of anabolics. And GH can be, like I said, can be easily faked. I had that instance where it just was not a good source, and you really want to make sure you get the medical, the actual like medically derived one, like from Pfizer or whatever it is, Bayer, whoever it is that's making it. But yeah, so with that being said, that whole tangent, the reason we're running this program is for the next 5-6 weeks to really dial in my fat and produce some muscle. And that's why Tren is kind of, it's overrated. Most of the guys will say Tren is kind of overrated. It does change the way your physique looks, but it does fuck with you mentally. It's called a relationship destroyer. Most guys, 99.99% of serious bodybuilders will never take halotestin. So only a few guys really know what halotestin is like, but Tren is a less serious version of that when it comes to mental side effects. There's a lot of paranoia, and that's the reason why it's called a relationship killer. A lot of guys who take Tren will say that they think that their girlfriend's cheating on them, their wife's cheating on them, even though there's really no evidence. It's just this paranoia. They just make up these situations in their head. There's a lot of anger behind it too, and anxiety, and depression. That's what people have found from it. Granted, everybody reacts differently to it. There's really no way of saying this is what's going to happen. This is not what's going to happen. It all just depends on who you are. And really what anabolics does in general is it heightens all of your personality traits. So if you have issues with anxiety, then anabolics is going to only heighten that issue. If you have depression, it's going to make it worse. Stuff like that. For me, I'm blessed to not have those issues. But like I do have temper issues and I've had them my whole life. So that I gotta kind of keep under control. So that's where we're at right now. As far as anabolics goes, that's only a small portion of it. It helps and it does give you a look. Tren is going to completely change my physique. It gives you a grainy look, and you shed fat like crazy, which is in one way why I'm excited to take it, but you shouldn't be excited to take drugs. It's not a good thing, but, yeah, so I'm looking forward to it because I'm curious on how my body responds to it, but also I'm kind of nervous in a way because of the mental side effects. So, I did, kind of warn my wife. I'm like, look, this is what is seen. I'm taking a very low dose. I'm not taking it for that long, in comparison to others. And the people who really see a lot of these side effects take a shit ton of it. So this is anecdotally what other people experience. It's possible I'll experience something like it. So she's okay with it. She knows what I'm like on other anabolics, so she's totally fine. She's like, thanks for giving me the warning. And I was like, basically what it's going to come down to is that most likely I'm just going to need more like attention from you, most likely, maybe more words of affirmation, more physical touch, stuff like that, just to be like, if I'm at the point where I'm like worried about a relationship, I'm just going to need that stability for the next month, maybe, which I talked about on the relationship podcast episode. When it comes to bodybuilding, finding the right person is very, very important if you're going to be with someone while bodybuilding, because most women, I would say most, are not okay with their spouses taking anabolics, which guys have asked on streets and videos and stuff like, are you okay with your guy taking steroids, whatever? And most of them say no, they're not okay with it. I'm blessed to have my wife who is okay with it. She doesn't help me with it. She doesn't do anything for me for it. She just is okay with it. And she understands my mental side of things, if there is anything, and also physically what I'm going through. So she understands, and she's there and okay with it. So I'm very blessed to have her. So I kind of, like I said, I sat her down. I was like, look, this is what other people experience, just so you know. And if I ever get angry, or if I ever worry if you're cheating on me, it's really not me, and it's not you, it's not us. It's just the drugs speaking, essentially. It's what's going on in my brain, is the chemical imbalance. But again, it's only running for 4 or 5 weeks, maybe 6. So we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to really take it to the next level with my fat loss. I'm really ready to lose all this fat. So I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm ready to, in quotation, suffer for the show. But I am ready to see what my actual physique looks like with no fat, because I've never seen that. I've gotten lean, kind of, enough to have a 6-pack, but not to the point where it's like, okay, this is actually what I look like with no fat, or very little fat. So I'm excited. I'm ready for that. I'm ready to hit the stage, and I haven't yet. We've been pushing it off for fucking ever. But again, the reason we've been pushing it off is because when I do step on stage, the goal is that everybody else is competing for second. That's the goal. We're stepping on stage, and we're stepping on the stage, whatever he picks, that I'm going to win first overall. Like, we're not going to step anywhere else. And if we compete nationally, the goal is at least top in class, and then ideally, front runner for overall if possible. Not sure if that's even achievable this year. I'm probably going to, if we go national, my goal is to get top 2 in my class to get my pro card. But then again, I'm also really not ready for pro, competing professionally. So not even sure if we're going to even go after it, because it's possible that, we might wait until I'm able to compete professionally until I get my pro card, So like competing on the pro stage is very different from competing on a regional or national stage. So we might wait to the point where I can compete on a pro stage before I ever get my pro card. But then again, there are plenty of guys who get their pro card, put in the work for 2-3 years to put on size, and then they start competing and crushing it. That happened recently. I think Ben Keel was like that. I'm pretty sure with the recent Charlotte Pro. I watched a Instagram live that he had with my coach, Ben Keel, and I'm pretty sure, took a couple years after getting his pro card, and then just came out of nowhere and just fucking crushing it. Granted, he's gotten second twice now, but he's going to keep hitting pro shows. And like, that's what he did, was he got his pro card, took some time off, put on some size, came back ready to shred it, and just got diced to the gills and competed professionally. So we'll see what the plan is. Obviously, I'll keep you guys updated. Next weekend, when we have next weekend's episode, I'll talk about how I'm feeling on trend, because it's starting this week, hopefully Tuesday. So 2 days from now, might start Thursday, depending on whenever it comes in. So I'm excited and nervous, but I'll talk about it. You guys will see anecdotally my entire process. And then again, 12 weeks out, I'll talk about where I'm at food-wise, where I'm at energy-wise, where I'm at cardio-wise, stuff like that. So you guys can see the full process from start to finish. But right now I'm at 5 sessions of cardio for 30 minutes after my workout, where it was at 3. So we increased it by 2 sessions. We took out carbs. I'm on a low carb cycle, I'm on a carb cycle with 3 low days and then 1 high day, which I've been running for a couple weeks, but we took out a lot of carbs. So there's less carbs now. But I'm already seeing the results. I'm down about 2.5 pounds in the past week. We started that carb cycle, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and then I'm already down 2.5 pounds. So like my body responds like crazy to carbs. So just taking some carbs out. And then also another thing that I did, which I think you'll be proud to hear, Stoph, is that after a recent episode about sugar, I made sure to take out anything that has added sugars, pretty much. Um, Sometimes you can't avoid it. Like there's some stuff that you can't avoid. Like I think like an English muffin has like some added sugars and shit. Like you can't really avoid that. But like for the most part, I made sure to
Make
take.
them yourself.
Yeah, I wish that'd be sick. I'd love to make my own bread, but I took out added sugars for the most part, and I've actually like even though I didn't really take in much added sugars before, it actually I've gotten a lot more energy. I feel now like. It could be also like the gym and whatever I'm taking and shit right now, like Masteron and tests and stuff. That could play into it, my energy. But like, I feel like I have more energy. Dopamine is still not there. That's just my own problem. But like energy wise, I think it's up. That's for sure. And I think that also results from the lack of sugar, which is good. And I feel better. I think I feel better.
At work, someone tried to offer me a Jolly Rancher, and I said no. It
Yeah.
has too much added sugar, and they're like, "Bro, it literally says 3 grams of added sugar." I was like, "Sorry, man,
Yeah.
nope."
Oh, that's the other thing that I take with added sugar is my gum that I chew every day is juicy fruit.
Yep,
But I chew that during the gym. It's so that I breathe. I make sure I'm breathing.
got
Um,
one of those. Got one of those rubber rolls. The ones you can chew on that they don't. There's nothing there, and you never deplete it because it's just a little piece of rubber.
it's like those like pencil grips.
Yeah, no, I'm being serious. There's
No, I
there's
know.
actual things, and they call it
Yeah,
like the jaw workout.
yeah. There's
Give you that chiseled jawline from chewing those
yeah, I've
things.
seen that. There are actual mouthpieces for breathing. Brian
Yep.
Shaw wears it. But I like to chew it as like a fidget thing when I'm at the gym. And then it also it helps me breathe. Make sure that I'm breathing during my actual training sets. Um, So yeah, that's the other thing I take in that's added sugar. I'd have to take a look at like my supplements. It's possible my pre-workouts and my BCAAs might have it. I haven't really checked that out. I'm not too worried about that. Um, but yeah, I cut out everything that has remotely any added sugar in it. Besides stuff that's part of the plan. English muffins part of the plan. Almond butter's part of the plan. Stuff like that. So I make sure to take out what I have to. Um, but
Speaking
yeah.
of Brian Shaw, though,
Mhm.
big upset that he didn't go for the five or didn't get the fiver,
For
because world's strongest man.
Yeah, he didn't he have an injury? Didn't
I
that happen? April
I
14th.
don't
Yeah.
I think he just didn't bring his best stuff that day. Um,
He had a very bad bacterial skin infection, of an aggressive form of cellulitis. I just remember seeing him in a hospital post on Instagram or something.
yeah,
Um, who even won? I think it was like nobody even really knows. Like there's some guy that like came out of
Mitchell
nowhere.
Hooper from Canada.
Yeah, so yeah, the Canadian strongman and kinesiologist. Good for him. He came out of nowhere. Usually it's like the same like top four guys every time. And he doesn't
Yeah,
even
I
look
mean,
like a world's strongest man either. Like he's not ginormous, you know what I mean? Like he's not like this enormous dude. He's just strong as fuck.
well, a lot of people have those weird sleeper builds. Like there's that video, or there's a chain of videos of this dude who pretends to be a janitor at a gym,
Oh,
and
well, yeah.
he just rips it up. But yeah, I this was Brian Shaw's last world's strongest man, which is why we were all hoping he'd bring it home.
Yeah. He,
Um,
he, he did make his mark, and he's arguably, him and Eddie Hall are both like the most popular strongmen of all time now.
yeah,
Like it's not even close. But he could say he's a world's strongest man, which is enough.
we can say he's 4 time the world's strongest man. I think
Yeah.
that's the highest out of like winners.
Well, Eddie Hall was named strongest man in history after his like 1,100-pound deadlift or something. That was like the
Yeah,
name he got. Granted, it was beaten, I think, at this point, but um, yeah, that sucks though. Brian Shaw, I would love to meet Brian Shaw one
I want
day.
to know what crazy stuff those guys are on.
I can only imagine.
Because for those who want a funny video, look up Brian Shaw awarding the O winners, because he walks
Mhm.
over and I think he awarded like the men's physique guys. No, the men's physique guys, and he walks over and it literally looks like kids standing next to an adult, even though they're all adults up there, because he's like 7 feet tall, 400 something pounds. Like, he is just
Yeah,
a
he's
mammoth of a man.
massive, absolutely massive. Yeah, his numbers. His some of his best lifts. So let's see, his squat 1,003 pounds. He benched 530 pounds twice. His deadlift is 1,091 from blocks. Long bar
I'm
deadlift,
just
which is
I'm just reading these events they do, and it's just such weird things compared to what like you and I do in the gym. Like, have you ever done a
yeah,
bus pull?
yeah, it's ridiculous. He did a like somebody did a plane pull. I think they pulled like a commercial airliner or some shit. I think I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I saw a photo like that. It might have been just a photo shoot, but his long bar deadlift, which is also called the elephant bar, is 1,031. His rack pull is 1,365, and his log press is 465. Which, I mean, rack pull at 1,365 is absolutely fucking crazy. Like, that's so crazy. Like one rep max for me is maybe 5 plates, which is like what,
Yeah,
495, and he's doing almost triple that.
yeah,
Which is fucking crazy. Each of his hands is lifting 1.5 times my rep, my max.
absurd,
Yeah,
absurd.
which is crazy. But yeah, that's there's a video of Eddie Hall and someone, I forget his name, Jesse James West, I think, and
Yep.
Jesse was like, he's like, when I say I'm doing light squat day, it's very different from what you do. He's like, so what would you consider light squat day? And he's like, we probably start at like, he's like, light squats probably around like 400. He's like, yeah, that's light. Just like, yeah, that's super light. Which is 4 plates. Let's just stack
Yep.
on 4 plates and call it a light squat day. Fucking ridiculous.
Well, there's
Um,
also the road to the Olympia that Eddie Hall's been doing, which
so
not at
dumb.
all going to happen, but it's
No,
just funny to see it. And he posts his posing videos, and like when he hits his side chest, like he's just so massive that like he just kind of looks like a ball of a person turning and making that pose.
it's ridiculous. Yeah,
But I don't
he
think we give enough credit to these strong men, because like we talk so much about like how we're in the gym for manipulating how our body looks, and finding our best selves that way, and these guys take it in the complete opposite direction, where they could give a damn about how they look, and
mhm.
it's all about moving the weight, and it's super impressive. That's why I say we don't give enough credit to it, because obviously when you think of the gym world, if you're not in the gym, you think of people who look good, so like bodybuilders. But if you're in the gym, some of the most impressive people are the strongmen, because they're just absurd. Granted, their form on some regular lifts are things that we kind of make fun of, but when it comes to actually moving the weight, strongmen are absolutely absurd.
Yeah, and what makes me happy about strongmen specifically, I have more respect for strongmen than powerlifters personally, because strongmen lifting is it's more functional. Like, it's like more actual, like, genuine strength. Where powerlifting is about deadlift, squat, and bench, and however you can get there. Right? It's like whoever can lift it. Like, even like the assisted, where like you got the fucking like slingshot and the benching suit and shit, and like all these knee wraps and shit. Where like with strongmen, they're not using any of that. It's like you have to like they got to do like farmers carries or whatever they're called, farmer carries, and like carry like 800 pounds and walk it like 50 yards and then walk it 50
Yeah,
yards back. It's like it's a completely different way of lifting, and it just so unbelievably much stronger than powerlifters, and much more safe. But the thing with strongmen too is that you have to have a very specific build for it. Like, if Eddie Hall, I think, is borderline on the small side for it, and almost like
a
it's a
6'8", something
miracle.
like that.
I think
Yeah,
no, I think he's like 6'5". Like, he's on the shorter side for it. Like, it's almost like a
yeah,
problem. Like he had
Well,
the code.
when they post the videos with him and Brian Shaw, you think that like just in the videos, Brian Shaw is like just a like normal dude, and Eddie Hall's like this just short guy. But in reality, Eddie Hall's taller than me, and with
He's six
that
three.
frame, oh 6'3", okay,
Yeah,
but
I looked it
still,
up. He's six
but
three.
still,
Brian's 6'8", and then half Thor is 6'9". But Eddie Hall, the reason he had to cut it short at the age that he did, being like 31, 32, whatever it was because of his height. He was getting too big for his height and was becoming very detrimental to his health. Where
yeah,
guys like Eddie and Brian could put on so much more size than Eddie could. I think Eddie's biggest ever was 362, and I think Brian's like 450 or something. So it just goes to show how strong Eddie is because he's so much smaller than everybody else. But yeah, it's crazy. These guys are crazy. I was going to say something else to it too. And like, it's not even like they do 3 lifts like powerlifters do. I mean, granted, they do like usually 3 sets of each. It's like one, like they build up to their PR to break, to win the competition. Like they do like 9 events for strongmen. It's like, and you get points depending on how you place. So you could win 3 of them and still lose.
yeah,
So it's a completely different way of competing. Where at powerlifting events, it's all about your total weight combined. So it's your deadlift, your squat, and your bench all added up. And then whoever gets the highest number is the winner. You can win the bench and still lose, but like it depends on your total number.
yep.
But yeah, strongman is a fucking crazy, crazy different world that they live in. The amount of food they eat is crazy. Like I used to watch so many Brian Shaw food videos. He doesn't really post them anymore, I don't think, but I used to watch tons of his food videos, and like, man, I couldn't even get through like half a day he eats.
Well, there's I'm blank. Braun Strowman. He's a WWE wrestler who has the build of a strongman.
Hmm.
And he talks about how he doesn't calculate calories or macros. He goes based off of pounds, and he
Wow.
needs to eat. He says per day, like a pound of fish, 2 pounds of chicken, 2 pounds of rice, like an absurd amount of food.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
when
it's
you're measuring
crazy.
in pounds, that's wild.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I just hope that I get to the point where when I'm bulking, I can just I have to cook rice every day. That's my goal. Like when you get big enough and you're bulking enough to where you have to like use your rice cooker and have it sit warm all day because you need to grab rice out of there. Like that's my goal.
Yeah.
Right now I'm only having like, I think the most I have in one day is 4.5. No, well, yesterday was my high carb day and I had 7.5 ounces of rice throughout the entire day. So 3 ounces in one meal and 4.5 post workout. But like, I want to get to the point where I'm having like 6 ounces of rice every meal. Like that'd be great.
Yeah.
just eat tons of rice. But yeah, those guys are crazy. What was I going to say? Brian's like 12,000 calories, I think, at one point in a day, every day, or something like
That's
that. Like that's like his
so
average,
nuts. That's
which is
so
so
nuts.
yeah, so much. And what's funny too is that like he lives in Colorado, so like I think one of his main sources of protein was bison, and he would eat pounds of that a day. And bison is not cheap. That's like $10 a
No.
pound. Like he would go. So I also watched his shopping videos from way back in the day, like 4 or 5 years ago, and he would go every like 2 or 3 days, and he would like, I think it was like every 3 days, sometimes 2, depending on the program he's in, but he would spend anywhere from like $400 to $500 on food like every few days, which is crazy. And he'd shop at like Costco, I think, for everything because he just had to buy it in so much bulk, which is
But
fucking nuts.
that just reaffirms how this is, a money sport. And we're not just talking bodybuilding, but like all the lifting sports in general, the amount you have to eat and the amount you have to, put into your system in regards to anabolics and whatnot. Like it's a big boy sport in terms of financials.
Yeah, it's extremely expensive, and that's why like they call bodybuilding a rich person sport. They say it's a rich person sport. It's all first world sports.
Yep.
It's like there are, like, if you've watched the Generation Iron documentaries, there are individuals in Africa who are bodybuilding and stuff like that, and they're trying to bring it. But like the problem is like for them, I think they make like I think it was fuck, where was it in the third generation iron? I think they were in like Ghana or something, And they said that on average, the people there make 127 US dollars a month. So they have to like make it work somehow
Yeah.
with bodybuilding. Like they have to, like what they eat is like extremely cheap foods like eggs and rice. And like that's it because eggs are very sustainable and they're very cheap. And
Cheapish.
yeah, I mean, granted,
They're
it's more
going up
expensive
now.
here, but
Yeah.
like if you have your own chickens, which I hope to have one day on my own land, I want to have my own
That's true.
chickens. If you have your own chickens, it's extremely cheap. You just got to buy the bird seed and just give them water, basically. And they give you eggs every day. So it's like eggs and rice and like just whatever cheap stuff they can get, like usually scraps from chicken and shit. Um, so like that's what they have to do. And yet these guys have phenomenal genetics, which just kind of goes back to like the more African your genetics, I think the more like athletically superior you are. Like these guys
Mm.
are like eating not really as healthy, not health. They're eating very healthy, but like not as high quality as guys in the U.S. and guys in Europe and all of that. And they have makeshift weights out of like fucking
Oh yeah.
stone and wood and shit. And these guys look crazy. Like they look phenomenal. I don't know how they would do in a bodybuilding stage, but they look great for what they have. So it's like imagine their potential if they actually had the resources to push their body as far as they could. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But it is, like I said, it is a rich person sport. You got it. There's a lot of money involved. You don't have to be rich to do it, but you got to be able to put money into it. You can't do it if you're like, you know, lower, like very, very lower class. You can't do it living off minimum wage. Like it's just not possible. Um,
Yeah.
so finally
It's
I
almost
have,
it's almost not possible in middle class.
yeah, like lower middle class, it's very difficult. That's where I have been most of my life is lower middle class for my career. Finally, I'm at a place now where I'm like mid to upper middle class with what I'm going to be making soon. And finally, I can start affording shit for the gym. Not that I'm just going to go splurge, but like if I need some more chicken, I'll go get it. If I need rice or whatever, I can go get it. Like I don't have to worry about that. Where like the past few months, I've been having to like buy chicken every couple days, like just to get by, you know, and like buy chicken on sale and like buy like the cheapest steak I possibly could. It's it becomes expensive and it's like my plan changing randomly. Like he's like, all right, let's start prep and you got to buy this and this and this. And that's like $200, $250 just down the drain. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
adds up. Shit adds up. And like, granted, when we ran the GH last year, he was like, let me know when you're ready. And I was ready, I thought. And I mean, I could afford it financially, but like, it's still expensive. Like, you got to prepare. Like, GH, for instance, which you really, if you really want to take to the next level, you end up taking GH probably. And that fucking gets so expensive. Like, a lot of people's like rent, if you have roommates, is $400 a month. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it gets up there. My car costs that much, and I'm talking about spending it on a fucking anabolic. Like, what the fuck? So,
Would you rather drive today or would you rather pin today? The
yeah,
choice
for
is
real.
yours.
You can ride a bike to the gym and take GH or take your car. But yeah, no, it gets expensive. Food is very, very expensive. I mean, steak alone. I mean, it also depends on what your body responds to. For me, I'm actually on the cheaper side roughly because I eat a lot of chicken. Egg whites can be expensive, but like in the grand scheme of things, they're not super, super expensive. Um, but like if you respond really well to a lot of steak and a lot of red meats and a lot of fish, it gets way more expensive. Um, I just don't respond super well to a lot of red meat. So I'm blessed in that sense, but it gets so expensive. I mean, my steak, I have 6 ounces of steak a day, and it costs almost as much to have my steak as it does to have my, what is it, like 18, 20 ounces of chicken a day. Like, that's how
Yeah.
much more expensive steak is. So that's why I try to buy it on sale. I'm very blessed to be able to go to Food Lion. If you guys go to Food Lion, if you guys have a Food Lion near you and you're listening, go to Food Lion. They have the best price steak ever. They had last week, beginning of last week, I think it was, they had $14 pound New York strip on sale for $8. So it gets really cheap when you go to Food Lion. So I'm blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah, and in general, food just continues to spike with.
Yeah.
I'm not even equating it strictly to inflation, but we just keep having these accidents here in the States. Like a month ago was that chicken farm that just blew up. Then we had this cow farm that burned to the ground a couple weeks back, where it says like 18,000 cows were killed. Like
Hmm.
we just keep having these ridiculous accidents, and then luckily this year already seems to be more of a wet season in terms of leading up to the summer, but last summer was such a dry year that it's so tough to keep food prices down while also maintaining the land. So
Hmm.
with everything building up, like it's tough. It really is. Like I've just eggs where I'm at are just
Hmm.
continuing to go up and up and up, and chicken has kind of stabilized again, but for the most part, like food is getting up there again.
Yeah.
And for people who don't have the high income, like I certainly don't have the high income, so I make work with what I have, and that can be taxing. It can certainly be very taxing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember when that egg shortage happened or whatever, and it got to like $6 for a dozen eggs.
Yep.
Like absolutely ridiculous. Granted, for here it's back down. It's like just over $2 for a dozen. But chicken at one point was so. I know the prices of chicken like the back of my hand because I buy so much of it. So at one point, like a couple years ago, chicken was like $1.79 a pound. And now it's $2.79, and it's stayed $2.79. At one point, it was almost $4 a pound. When we had that chicken shortage, it was like
Yep.
$4 a pound. It was ridiculous, and that's what I eat the most of. I go through over a pound a day, so I blow through it. Like I have to buy if I can go through. I probably blow through like 10 pounds in a week, probably after I cook it and like lose some of the weight from that, and then I eat it. I probably go through 10 pounds in a week. So like when it's a dollar cheaper, like it was this week, so it was on sale for $1.79 at Food Lion. I bought like 15 pounds of chicken or something and just threw it in my freezer because it's like it's never that cheap. It's two
Yeah.
seventy nine a pound, and when it goes up, I fucking feel it. I can see it in my bank account when it goes up. It sucks. And egg whites is a bitch too. Egg whites I think used to be like $3.5 a carton for like a half gallon or whatever it is. Like the tall kind of like creamer cartons. I don't know what to call it. Those were like $3.5. Now they're $5 on like consistently $5, and they've been $5 for the longest time. So like that adds up because I go through one of those. Um, I think it's like every day and a half or 2 days. I go through one of
Yep.
those. So like that gets expensive too. I have to buy
And it
two
was
cartons for like 4 or 5 days.
it was in my diet to get chicken sausage, which is more expensive than just chicken breast because they have to process it in the sausage way,
Yeah.
and that I'm cutting that from my diet like this week moving forward, just because I was paying like almost, I don't know what the per poundage price was, but I was paying almost like $20 a week on that,
Hmm.
which I can just substitute that with chicken thighs are relatively cheap where I buy from, because like BJ's is my wholesale
Yeah.
price, and chicken thighs tend to come in under the $2 mark per
Hmm.
pound. So, and that also saves me so much time prepping, because with chicken breast, obviously I cut it up and I cut it in smaller like chunks, but with chicken thighs, honestly, I do my seasoning and I throw everything in the oven and I just let it bake.
Hmm. I love chicken
it's
thighs.
it's it's far easier to do it that way. So
And chicken thighs just taste so good too.
yep.
That's the other
Yep.
thing.
The
It
only
just
thing is it's a little less calorie wise in comparison to a chicken breast.
well, it's more
It's
fat
not,
and less protein.
yeah, it's not a huge difference, but it's noticeable.
Yeah, it's just that's the only reason why I don't eat chicken thighs. I think it's just fat content. There's just more fat in chicken
Yeah.
thighs than there is in chicken breasts. Um, but yeah, I love chicken thighs. It's so good. You throw some like stinky sweet Stubbs barbecue sauce in there. Oh, so good. Um, but yeah, that it gets expensive, and like not that doesn't even mention supplements. Supplements are expensive. Like
Yep.
I try to look at
Even
supplements per day
I was gonna say
because
even natural supplements are expensive.
yeah, that's what I'm
Like
talking about. Like literally like GNC shit. Like not that I shop at GNC, but like shit like that. It gets expensive. That's why I try to buy shit on sale. There's a supplement store near me that's wholesale prices, so I buy everything I can from there because they're very cheap. So that gets expensive. And when it comes to natural supplements like that, like pre-workout and BCAAs and whatnot, I try to look at it like per serving base versus like the overall cost because sometimes it's like Like I'm like looking at Gorilla Mind. I'm like $50 for a pre-workout. I'm like, that's a shit ton. And then it's like, but if it's like a lot of servings, then it's not bad. But then I see 20 servings. I'm like, dude, that's $2.50 a serving. That's fucking crazy.
Yep.
But then if I'm looking at um, like I don't know. Let's say I go to the wholesale supplement store and I get like 51.50 from 5%. It's like $30 for like 30 servings. And it's $1 per serving. I'm like, that's so much more value than $50 for 20. And what pisses me off so much is the cost of Godzilla from Rise.
Yep.
That's so upsetting. I'm like, dude, there is no reason that this pre-workout should be 60 fucking dollars. Like, what? Who do you think you are charging $33 or whatever it is per serving? I'm like, that's absurd. But whatever. It's if you want to buy it, that's up to you. But yeah, supplements get very expensive. Your coach can be very expensive as well. Some coaches are very, very expensive especially if you're
Well,
on the pro side.
even on the cheaper side, like I mean, Alec, I'm actually not to dox him, but my coach was, still a decent amount. Like for people who don't make a ton of money, like that's a lot out of like it's basically a car payment. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, basically. I mean, my coach, I'm grandfathered in at the price that I'm at, so I'm very blessed for that. I'm not going to talk about it, but like professional coaches, coach like Dom, my coach's coach, I think from what I've heard, the speculation is anywhere from $600 to $800 a month to have him as a coach.
Wild.
Yeah. I mean, granted, you're working with a well-renowned coach, and like he really does take his athletes like really far professionally. So, you do need a coach like that at some point, typically. But like, coaches are very expensive. What's surprising, in a lot of people aren't going to believe me, the cheapest part of bodybuilding is the drugs. That's the cheapest part. It's actually extremely cheap, depending on what you're doing. For prep, for instance, what I'm doing right now is on the more expensive side, because prop is less per milliliter of what you're buying. But like if you're bulking or cruising, like let's say like TRT injectable, like if you bought it like on your own, you don't go through a doctor or whatever. If you go through a doctor, it's so fucking expensive to run cycles. It is unbelievable. I mean, testosterone will run you like $200 a month, which is ridiculous. But like if I'm running like a cruise dose of like 150 milligrams on test and intake, I could run I could spend maybe $90, $100 every like 6 months. Like that's how cheap it gets. So drugs itself is very cheap, especially if you buy in bulk. If you buy directly from the source of like testosterone, which is typically from China. Most drugs are made in China. Um, you buy directly from them. You can buy like a shit ton of test for like nothing. Granted, I mean, obviously it's a lot of money. Like I've talked to guys who's bought like tons of milliliters for like $500, but it lasts them like 2 years. So they buy it in bulk and then just let it sit. But like it's pretty cheap for the most part. Besides
do you
GH.
know do you know off the top of your head expiration dates on those things?
Very long, actually. People were
Okay.
surprised to hear that, but like usually, from my understanding, I could be wrong. It depends on what oils they use to bind it with. So like let's say like my source, for instance, essentially what he gets powders in right. And then he puts those powders in a vial, and then he puts MCT oil in that, and binds it. It's not really binds it, but like lets it dilute, lets it sit for a bit, lets it mature, and so like I think my understanding of that with MCT oil is like 3 to 4 years per vial is
Oh
roughly how
wow.
long it lasts. Yeah, it lasts a while. Like my Masteron that I'm taking right now, I got like September of last year. No, not last year. Like, was it last year? No, I think it was September of 2021. And I have like no worries whether or not it's still good, you know?
Yeah,
So,
which is crazy. I
yeah,
would not have thought that it has that long of a shelf
right.
life.
You would think so, but it really does. It has a long ass shelf life. Same with orals. Orals have a very long shelf life just because they're pills. Pills have a pretty long shelf life. I mean, it depends on what you get and depends on what oils they use, stuff like that. Like for instance, like my cabergoline, I think is mixed with some sort of like type of alcohol. I think, which is what most SARMs are. Most SARMs are combined with some sort of alcohol. Um, So those don't last nearly as long as like an MCT oil anabolic, I believe. Again, I could be wrong, but that's just from what I've heard anecdotally and what people have found testing wise. And it could be different depending on the oils people use. I don't know what other oils people use. I just know mine uses MCT. I'd have to look into it. I have a new source for Master on Prop because my source doesn't provide Master on Prop. But yeah, so I'll find that out. See if I can find out what the shelf life is. But yeah, it's pretty long. It's longer than most people think.
Yeah, like just thinking about it, like you'd think that a substance that you're putting in your body to achieve the effects that you're willing to, work towards would be considerably shorter on shelf
Mm-hmm.
life. It would be, I would like, obviously not now having the insider information, but before thinking maybe like month tops, because like I think of it like food almost, because like the way your body consumes, and obviously it's a chemical, so it's a different like
Yeah.
balance for your body for how it breaks it down. But yeah, that's just wild to me.
Yeah. I mean, most cycles run for like 3 or 4 months. So there wouldn't really be a chance of using an anabolic that only lasted a month. It would go bad super fast. There'd be really no point in getting it. And also, like when you buy it from someone, usually it sits for a little bit because they don't sell all of it at once, So like you might buy something that's like a couple months. They've had it for a couple months, just sitting there ready. Like my
Yeah,
guy, for instance, um, he he just recently got in test prop. Test prop is very popular. Same with Anavar. He has problems with sourcing the amount of test prop and Anavar that he sells, but like Tren sits for fucking ever because not many people take Tren. It's not so like when I usually send him an email. I'm like, hey, do you have this in stock or this in stock? Like whatever I plan on getting. And I asked about test prop, and he said I should have it on Monday. I asked on like a Thursday or something. He's like, I can't. He's like, I forget what he said exactly. He was like, I'm dying for it on Monday or something. Or like he really like expressed the urge that he needs it for Monday. He's like, I hope I get it on Monday or something, but it should be in on Monday. Um, and he said, and plenty of it. And then I said, what about Trent Ace? And he said, yeah, I got plenty of it. Let me know how much you need. It's like, all right,
yeah,
cool. So like there's some stuff that sits for a little longer. But like, so for instance, like when I said the HGH, you like mix it with backwater. Anything you have to mix with backwater, like HCG or HCH, HCG for those that don't know is a basically like a sexual support drug. It helps with PCT, post psychotherapy. It builds up your fertility back to normal, helps with going back to natural testosterone levels. That comes in the form of powder, and then you mix that with backwater. And those don't last as long. Those are pretty quick to expire, from my understanding, because you're not mixing it with the oil. It doesn't really last that long. Granted, also HCG is, I believe you can buy it over the counter. Actually, you can buy it like online. Also, for those listening, if you're still listening, do not buy shit online. Don't go to like some website and buy Tren. I almost guarantee you're getting something bullshit because anybody who's actually selling anabolics does not want the government to know that they're selling anabolics.
yeah,
It's an illegal substance. So if you're able to pay with the debit card online, chances are you're not getting what you're actually buying. Chances
yep,
are. And you can buy SARMs and stuff online. That's different because it's a gray area with the FDA. They've approved it for research purposes. So you can buy it online with the understanding when you buy it from the website that you're agreeing that you're going to use it for research purposes. So the website will say, check this box, agreeing that you're going to use it for research purposes. This is not for human consumption, blah, blah, blah. That's how they get around it. But anabolics are illegal. It's like saying you can go online and buy cocaine. Like you're not just going to be able to go online and buy cocaine. Maybe on the dark web or something if you're going through Tor, perhaps.
the
But also,
Fitchburg dealers are going on mainstream internet.
yeah, like it doesn't fucking make sense. Like it just logically doesn't make any sense. So don't do that. I've seen guys like make jokes about videos of ordering Tren online, and it's like, dude, there's no shot you're getting Tren. Like there's no shot that's actually Tren. Like
Yeah,
there are brands that make like oral versions of like they make like oral pills of stuff that's like supposed to help your body in a similar way. I forget exactly what brand it is, but like there's a brand that has pills that like literally say the drugs that they're based off of, like, oh, Anavar or Dianabol or trend. It's just pills that helps with putting on weight or taking off fat, whatever. But they're like, oh, it's like you get results that are similar, but it's like saying like you're getting a like 5% similarity. Like it's not nearly as potent or anything. So it's like you got to be careful with what you're buying, because you're really not buying what you think you're buying if you're buying shit like that. Um, so do not buy shit online.
And I would even go as far as to say you shouldn't even if you find a source online, shouldn't even be doing it by yourself. It should be through, like through some other person that you know that has good experience. So that's why we
Yes,
recommend like a coach or something like that, or like if, God forbid, if I tried to freelance, I would go through Paul or something like that, which, not the move you should do, but I'm saying you want to have a person already in the field already doing it instead of
yes.
saying Reddit told me this guy's good.
Yeah, you don't. So, like, when I say forums, like, there are very specific forums that will give like good sources, and the sources are kind of like in a way sponsored. Like, one of the forums that I went to is my source now, and it's only because they've tested so many different sources and so many different individuals who sell it that they're like, okay, from what we can tell, this guy has the most high quality stuff, and we like vouch for him. And now this guy has like kind of like a community. Like he's part of this community now because he's like, there's this forum and this is community, and like this is the source for this community. Like he's the one that supplies for all these people. Um, my source I got from somebody else literally says, when I emailed them, because this is almost always done through email. When I emailed them, it said, do not give my email to anybody else. And if you do, I will cancel all orders and you will never hear from me again. Like basically
Yep.
what it says in that email. Like this shit's serious, guys. These people are literally drug dealers that you're dealing with. So like the only way to get that individual's contact information is through someone that has been given the okay to give it to others.
Yeah.
So it's very specific. So the only reason I got the first source is because someone I know who knows a lot about this stuff has said, this is the guy I used to use. He doesn't take it anymore. He said everything I've taken is really good prices, great guy, responds fast, whatever. So that's the guy I've been using for the longest time. I've had nothing but good stuff with him. But this new guy is way more serious because he works with a lot more pros. From my understanding, he's way more up there in the sourcing department because he has a lot more Pfizer stuff, a lot of Bayer stuff, a lot of like he's got the ins when it comes to like getting really crazy shit. And he's even carrying like brand name Masteron and shit, like shit you don't find anywhere else. So this
Yeah.
guy's very serious about his security. I'm just assuming it's a guy. I have no idea. But yeah,
But hey,
it's
if
really
you want
dangerous.
to take the try on the guy that's doing it from the gym bathroom, you do you, boo.
Yeah, just know you might not get exactly what you're hoping for. There's a lot of bro science out there. I'll never tell someone what to take ever. I don't have enough knowledge for that. It would take me 10, 15 years of this shit to be like potentially at that point. So like if anybody's in the gym telling you what to take and is not your coach who has been vetted and is like known to be a high quality coach, don't take that word for word. Like that's just called broad science, and do not, like, I will talk about what I take, but do not take what I take. Do not do what I do, because the reason we do what I do is because of the results that I get from it. It's the way
Yeah, and
my
your
body responds.
goals.
Yeah, exactly. My goals are different. The way my body's built, the where I am, like it's so fine tuned to me specifically that nobody should ever be doing exactly what I'm doing. So, if you're still listening, do not do any of that. Um, do not do what I'm doing. Do not take what I say word for word. This is just anecdotally.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly what I take. This is just anecdotal stuff. This is my understanding of it. This is Christoph's understanding of it. And we're just expressing our knowledge to help build up your knowledge.
And you should
Um,
also do kind of like what I did. Experiment and see if you can even keep up with the lifestyle before you
yes.
even hop on anything. Because
Yeah.
like it was clear that it wasn't working for me. So that saves me the because when you do take that, it more than likely messing up your longevity. Like there's
Hmm.
no like Mike O'Hearn, there's no such thing as longevity when you're doing this kind of stuff. Like,
Hmm.
so you have to factor that in. And if you don't have everything tuned and tiered up for that, like, there's no point. So,
Yeah, you can do this shit in a healthy way, absolutely, but it could potentially take years off your life, very very many years off your life if done improperly.
yep.
And one of the reasons, I mean, I know your coach is a good coach. I've heard it around, and I've seen people who work with him. But I also knew that he was a good coach because he said, "I want to see how you respond to things before we even talk about anabolics.
Yeah.
Respond to food, how you respond to training." That's also how I knew he was a good coach, because any good coach will not put you on drugs right away. If a coach is going to put you on drugs right away, he's not a good coach. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Um,
Trying to make money off you.
yeah, and also, like, when you were with your coach, another thing I wanted to see too is if you got to the point where you were going to do your first cycle, I want to see what his first cycle idea was for you. Because if he has you on, if your coach for your first cycle is over a gram of shit, he has no idea what the hell he's doing, because over a gram of
Give
shit for your
me
first cycle is dumb.
give me that 11,500 Liver King recycle.
Yeah, let me spend 11 grand a month for no reason. There's no reason your drug should ever cost $11,000 a month. No reason.
Yeah.
Let me just say that. But yeah, it's not good. I mean, this is, I think, one of the most I've ever taken in one go, and it's 700 milligrams. So less is
Yeah.
more. I'll always preach that. I didn't say it enough earlier today. I didn't really say it at all. Less is more, and that goes for training and food too. If you're not making progress, it's most likely because you're doing too much of something. You're doing too much training, you're eating too much, whatever it is. Sometimes the simplest solution is the answer, and sometimes it just means a rest day, another rest day a week. Less food even could be, the result that you need, or like the what you need to make more results. Less cardio, all of that. Less is a lot of the time more. And drugs is the same way. Less drugs is usually more. If you start off with a shit ton of drugs, you can only keep taking a shit ton. But if you start
Yep.
off with a little bit, you'll make just as much progress as you would with a shit ton. But it's also a lot better for your health. And you can hypothetically increase it from there and get more results. If you start off at the low threshold, then you can slowly work your way up and make better and better and better progress. That's just how the gym works. With that being said, we're kind of coming up on our cap here for 2 hours. Wanted to mention we have a new segment coming called Fitness Audit. We're going to have guests on the show where we're going to audit what they do in the gym and why they're potentially not making progress, whether they got a new plan from some coach they working with, some fitness coach or whatever it is, or if they're not making progress because of the food they're eating. We'll kind of dissect it with them over the episode and figure out what they can do to potentially make more progress or get back to making progress again. So we're going to have that. Also, don't forget we have a YouTube channel. We got to upload the episodes. We're kind of behind on it. We've Christoph and I have both been very, very busy lately. So we're going to catch up to it, but subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are watching this on YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button, comment what you guys think. If you guys aren't on our YouTube channel, subscribe. You can comment what you guys think of our episodes, interact with us there. And also don't forget about our website, hghcast.com. There I believe you can leave comments and everything. So don't forget about that as well. You guys can engage with us there.
And we're on TikTok.
Yes. We got to upload more videos on TikTok. I'm kind
Yeah.
of behind on that. We're behind on YouTube Shorts as well, but
You're good.
yeah, we'll get on top of it. But yeah, so follow us on TikTok, HGH Podcast.
This is the struggle of a self-produced show.
Yeah, we don't got any help. So
Yeah.
we'll keep uploading. Spread the word, guys. We rely on you guys' word of mouth for other listeners. So spread the word. Tell people about us. We do it for our own sake. We do it for fun. Our numbers don't really matter to us. We just do it because we want to do it. We want to talk about this stuff. But the more listeners, the better. Hopefully, our knowledge is spread further. So spread the word.
Hell yeah, man. All right, everybody. We will
All right,
see you
thanks for
next week.
listening. Yeah, see you guys.
Bye, everybody.